Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Producer. Right back here, and I am with Dottie the Psychic. Dottie, welcome back. Can't wait to hear what you got today. How you doing, Dottie?
I'm doing all right. Hello, my dotlings.
Dottie, you're in West Virginia. You were telling me that you got some snow down there, and you got some. What's going on? I'll let you tell everybody.
Well, it just started snowing. It's like the first snow of the season. It's really starting to actually come down. It's beautiful. Like, I love the snow. It's like the only purpose of winter is to make everything white, like sparkly.
I'm with you too. I love the snow. But with your gift and your psychic abilities, does weather have any? Have you ever noticed that if it makes it stronger, or is that even a thing?
You know, honestly, because I actually did a whole video on it's Death Part 2, where I did a video on like spirits and stuff, and certain like recurring spirits, like the and I've lost the technical name for them. Forgive me, my people. I have forgot the word for the recurring ghosts, but they basically exist on a loop, and sometimes they'll be affected by meteoric conditions. My roommate talks about a castle where the stone has actually recorded voices, and when the weather is just right, it'll play them back. I do think that if for no other reason than the person's mood, a weather can affect your psychic ability. I definitely find that the more humid the air is, the more in tuned I feel, and I don't know if that's an electrical thing or if it's just a Dottie thing.
I got and a psychic Dottie. I think there's really something to it, because in AM radio, it's really affected by the weather. If it's rainy or it's cloudy, and that's energy, just like what you're receiving from the people or whatever that may be, is like kind of the same. It's a frequency.
Right. Well, I mean, it makes perfect sense. It would make perfect sense. I remember one time I made this dream catcher. I just love to make dream catchers. And I did it I had like a bigger quartz and a smaller quartz, and we set it up, and this is in the middle of the field. We were supposed to have Wi-Fi through at least parts of this field, and nobody had Wi-Fi except underneath of this dream catcher.
Wow.
Yeah. And so you think about our old radios, they used crystals to tune. They literally tune the crystals. Like if you get an old I've actually wanted to really get into this, and I don't know nothing about it, so I'm going to stop talking about it because I have
no like an old radio. That's so cool. Like, old radios would use it, like the ones in the 30s and the 40s. I know they were built a lot different. The one where the whole family would sit in front of and listen to the radio. Those old ones you're talking about.
Yeah, they had crystals in them, and that's basically how they would pick up the frequency. They would use the crystals would be tuned to a certain frequency in order to receive it. And I think that's part of why we use like so much of the, electrical language. So a lot of the things we use when we talk about energy are electrical terms, and a lot of are radio terms. And I think that's because that's number one, it makes it a lot easier to process. I'm like, okay, if we kind of use that terminology to describe what's going on in our bodies, just generalizing. But I also think it's because, it's still the same thing, even if it's not connected in our three-dimensional brains. I do notice, like I talked about before we got on the air, about how people have a tendency to like compartmentalize their psychic world versus like the mundane world. I'm like, rather than incorporating the idea in their day-to-day life, like I have to, because it's literally my job. I'm literally psychic all the time. But
it's a gift too. Not everyone has this, right? It's rare.
I don't think it's that rare. I honestly don't think it's that rare. I think my case is more rare because I've developed it. But I do think that, it's like being able to run track. Yes, I would be a sprinter. I won't say an Olympic sprinter. I'm not that arrogant, but I could I could keep pace. Everybody can run. Some people can only run about a half a block.
Right. Okay. I see what you're saying. I get it. So we all have it in us, but just some people to a different extent, and working on it, of course, building the muscle. It's like working out.
Yeah, very much so. Like you can go from being what you may even perceive as just being a quote unquote normal person, which not a fan of that term to begin with, but you know where I'm getting.
Yeah.
And you can become a professional psychic after a certain time with exercise, with practice.
Yeah.
That's not to say that everybody has a talent. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there who literally have no talent, but
hey, I want to get back to this, but I don't want to miss. You got somebody that's been helping you out, and you wanted to give them a shout out. Can you talk about this person who's pretty special to you?
Yes. Okay. So Asen and Joe, they are my social media managers. They run Mystic PC together. They're a lovely couple, and they have been my rock after I left my job, and within a month my mom had died. So I took a big hit there. And I wasn't able, even though it was now my bread and butter, I wasn't really able to be very psychic. I mean, imagine that. It was definitely not into mediumship and things. I couldn't do it every day. I couldn't.
Right.
I was down. And they really helped get me back up on my feet, help me to pull things together. So like, okay, look, Dottie, I know you can't do that, but why don't you do this, that sort of thing. And they really, really kind of bailed me out. I would probably have had to go back and find another job or go beg for my job back if it hadn't been for them. So they made it possible for Dottie the Psychic to go full time. For me, it's an actual full-time business. They run my website. They have helped me with Keen. They have helped set me up on a bunch of other platforms that I use. And I just want to give them a shout out because I don't know if they're taking new clients, but they work with psychics like me to help set up websites and things like that, jump in on live streams, keep all the trolls out, you know what I mean, that sort of thing.
Okay.
But they've been great. So I just wanted to give them a shout out. Thank you, Joe and Asen. If you're listening to this, I really appreciate all the help.
Cool. And Psychic Dottie, how do we get a hold of you? Tell me about the website and how do people get there, and what are we going to see when we get there?
Okay, so when you go to dottiethePsychic.com, there is going to be a playlist that I need to fix. Oh God, I gotta fix my playlist. Now that I look at it. But there'll be a YouTube playlist, and then there's like 3 little boxes that kind of talks about some of the things I do. You can get on the click down menus and find my services so that you can set up an appointment. I got there's like a column of links off to the right side that I'll kind of point you to all the little things I'm doing, like Facebook and Patreon and my podcast.
Tell me about your podcast.
Yeah, actually, a lot of it's live streams I do on my YouTube channel. I port them over to my podcast so that I can kind of keep them separate. There's going to be a regular one called Tea and Coffee, and that's me and Asen, because he's a professional psychic too. He's a master psychic.
Oh, wow.
And we get on there and we just sort of chit chat for as long as we please. I mean, they're usually run an hour. So, yeah. So we just get on there and chit chat about whatever psychic topic comes to mind. I know we've talked about scammers was the big one we did not too long ago. I don't know if that's on my site. I think I just talked that one out, but I did a big video on scammers and we got on and we talked about that on his channel. I also try to have a guest, a fellow psychic, somebody who's a spiritual entrepreneur. Sorry, I'm running out of breath. On there at least once a month. So those are my 2 live streams, and I try to put them on my podcast. So
what kind of scammers were you talking about?
All sorts. I did a whole video on scammers in the psychic community because everybody, oh Lord, now I'm gonna get hot. See, here's the thing is there's like only 2 kinds of people out there alerting people about the scammers in the psychic community. Psychics whose businesses are being directly affected, people who are set up they've set up their social media and worked very hard on it, and people are going out there and basically copying their accounts, changing like one number and putting their pictures up, and it's so dirty. And the other people out there helping with, to tell people about psychic scammers are hardcore skeptics who think we're all a bunch of frauds. I'm like, this is not fair. This is not fair.
I can't stand us people getting all the others' business. Like, keep your opinion. It's your opinion. Yeah, keep it to yourself. I mean, why would you want to screw with somebody else if you don't know anything about it?
I on one hand, I'm very much with you on that one. I'm like, look, really, just because you don't believe doesn't mean it's not real.
Right.
On the other hand, I understand why some of these skeptics will come after psychics, because what they're going after are these people who are taking people's money. They're feeding off a vulnerable population, like piranhas. And that's not what most of us psychics are out there doing. We're out there to offer a service to try and help you fix your life.
Uh-huh.
That's the idea. You get a reading. Okay, this is what you need to do. And we point you in a direction. That's what I do. I'm like, okay, honey, well, you might want to get a real therapist. That's beyond my skill level. Go do this, this, and this. Where these people, like, there was one down, I don't know exactly where, but in the video, I mentioned that the reason I did the video was somebody in, I think it's Beckley, which is not too far. It's in West Virginia. If you don't know where that is, don't worry about it.
Okay.
But this woman's selling basically pieces of gravel, like a single piece of gravel for like $9,000 to try and fix people's problems. And it gives us all a bad name. And it absolutely infuriates me, because I don't care what you did to that rock. I don't care how supercharged it is. That is not going to fix everybody's problems. I had another friend. I was actually on somebody else's podcast. Those Back Porch Folk. They've actually archived their podcast, but it's still worth going and listening to. Mm-hmm. Where the lady I was speaking to on there had talked about being at a psychic event where she had overheard the merchant next to her tell a cancer patient that this rock would fix her cancer and she didn't need to take chemo anymore.
God.
Yeah, we all know that. It just makes me cringe. It makes me cringe when I hear that, because that's not what it's about.
No, that's wrong.
Right. I think the faith healers are the ones that make me the angriest, because there is energetic healing out there, but it's not going to fix 100% everything. Like, it's going to help you to open the door to heal. Okay.
To find, maybe to look into something that maybe you press down, or
right. Well, it'll help your energetically align with a potential cure or a potential treatment. Western medicine works, otherwise we wouldn't pay so much for it.
Yeah. Sometimes a little bit. I think we do it a little too much, so when it's not needed. But that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, I mean, we could go down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, we could go down. But Psychic Dottie, let me ask you, like, say I'm a new client for you. I'm not even a client. You're just having a conversation with me. Being the psychic that you are, do you pick up stuff from me without even, is it, I want to know what it's like to have that, to be as tuned in as you are. Do you have to say, all right, I'm going to try and work on you, or can you see it kind of just coming off me like, oh, I know that about you? Do you know what I'm trying to ask?
Honestly, like, here's the thing. A lot of us out in public are kind of shut down, because one run, blah, 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 let me try that again. Got tongue tied. One of the reasons that a few psychics won't go and approach you in public unless you get too close to their booth and they've got a sign out is because that's what a lot of scammers do. They will learn about somebody and then approach them as if they were a stranger.
Oh.
So a lot of psychics don't do that because it's kind of tacky.
Right. And don't we have to ask? Do we have to ask permission to? Or would a psychic? But that's not the question really. I asked. I asked if it comes off me and you get it.
Yeah, when I'm if I sit next to somebody and they're just fuming, then yeah, you can pick up on it. And I do get, of course, I'm watching body language. I'm not going to sit here and deny that people give off clues to their, to their psychology just in the way they dress and act. I do pick up on that, but I do also pick up on an energetic field around somebody. And honestly, a lot of times I will turn it totally off because I used to work with homeless people. I had to have, I had to transport pedophiles.
Oh God.
On multiple occasions. So like as a psychic, I don't want to take that with me.
You don't even want to go down there. You don't even want to be a part of it. That energy, you want to put that thing around you and block it off.
Right. So I kind of have to walk off. And also, like, here's the thing. If you're walking around just trying to buy your eggs and milk, you don't want to pick up on whoever's, divorce drama is in the next aisle over.
Right. That's what that's why I'm wondering just about that. If it could be overwhelming, because if you see that, or if someone has to ask you for you to volunteer to do it, or is it something you can't stop? But apparently you can turn it off.
Yeah, it's my ability. I can choose, and you don't really need somebody else's permission to read them. It's just polite.
Okay.
So honestly, sometimes you can take a look at a person and read their whole life on them. And a lot of beginning psychics, a lot of young psychics won't be able to shut it off. Like it takes work to learn how to kind of encapsulate yourself, separate yourself from feelings that don't belong to you. That's a big one. Like learning how to separate yourself from other people can be difficult because it's natural for somebody with a lot of psychic talent who is trying to develop that psychic talent to basically become a conduit. And you open yourself up to spiritual harassment from wandering, freewheeling dead people or just random spirits, and also just picking up everybody's nasty energy. Sometimes people, because somebody's got a headache and suddenly they walk by you and you get their headache and suddenly they don't have a headache.
Wow.
Like I've had that happen.
Is that a common thing, or is that really rare?
Yeah, it's not that uncommon. Like it's something that a lot of psychics report.
Wow. That's got to be tough to live with.
Here's the thing. Psychics report it because we're studying the psychic world. But one of the things that even nurses have to do is they've got to learn to leave things at work.
The balance.
And it's a lot of the same mentality. People don't realize they're doing it in their day-to-day life. I'm sure that if you sat down and thought, you could think of somebody who burnt out in what seems like a pretty easy job. Partially was because they were constantly overwhelmed by other people's energy.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, no doubt. I'm speaking with Dottie the psychic, and Dottie, are you taking? I know it's a busy time for you, with the new year and everything. Do you have room for new clients?
I absolutely do. I would love to have new clients. Make sure you go through the website though. I know you can find my number on Google, but don't call me directly without an appointment. Otherwise, I hate to say this, I got to get paid.
Yeah, well, no, it's rude. It's rude to do that. Right. Hey, let's see what your fans have to say. Mr. Producer, maybe we can go to instant feedback. What you got, my man?
We have Adam in North Carolina wants to know, how often do your clients come to see you? I feel like I have too many questions for one session.
Thanks, Adam.
Usually for just a single read, like just a maintenance reading, so to speak. Well, once a month would be good because you think about it, the whole idea is that you're supposed to come, we figure out what's going to happen for you, what you need to, we take like a bigger view to see where you are and how we need to adjust your life. And then about a month, that's had a chance to affect, and we can kind of see what the next step is. That's what I usually tell people. If you've got a lot of questions, if you've got, things going on, I can do longer sessions. Like we could sit down. If you wanted to talk to me for an hour, we could talk for an hour. We'll just have to book it that way,
Okay.
So,
all right. Thanks for the question. What else you got, Mr. Producer, with a bad angle?
We have Steve in Tennessee, kind of something you were talking about earlier, Dottie. When dealing with psychics, how do I know if the one I've found is legitimate?
Ooh, good question, man.
That is a great question. And I'll tell you this. A real psychic will be concerned about your well-being first. Your spirituality, if it doesn't fit in your wallet, doesn't fit in your life. Like, you think about it, all these mountain witches, they worked with nothing. They worked with grass and the sky and the water from the creek. They didn't need any of the trappings of the spiritual world to do their spirituality. And those are some of the strongest magi, witches, whatever you want to call them, are good old mountain folk living their lives. So that's what I would say, because honestly, your psychic should give sound advice. Your psychic should be concerned about your well-being. This is a professional you're paying to help you, and you are hiring them. And that's the important thing to remember. If you don't feel like you're in tune with that psychic, find another one. It's okay to doctor shop. As a nurse, it always infuriated me that people would they would stick with a doctor even though they knew the doctor wasn't doing anything for them, because they had some sort of idea of loyalty or things like that. And it is okay to find somebody who is going to work with you.
Right.
In any profession.
Hey, Dottie, has there ever been a client or someone that you tried to read that you just got nothing from? Does that ever happen?
Actually, there's a whole bunch of them. Just about every event, if I've got 15 or 20 reads back to back, there's going to be one of them I want to send flying from the table crying because I've spelled out their whole life. And there's going to be one that's an absolute brick wall who chooses to guard themselves. You think about it, every psychic we're going around, we are guarding ourselves. And that's something that's some people naturally do that. Yeah. Their spirit's injured, or they're very guardian type people who can be difficult to read if they choose to be difficult to read. I get a lot of people who think they're going to be difficult to read, and I read them like a book and they're just shocked. But people, yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I do occasionally get people who are just genuinely bricked off. They've warded themselves well.
And is that because goes to my next question is, did you ever do readings for skeptics?
Oh yeah, all the time.
What happens?
It's funny because I got there's different kinds of skeptics. There's skeptics that are okay, well, I don't 100% believe this, but my girlfriend's into it, so whatever. And they'll sit down with their girlfriend. This is my favorite because it'll be the boyfriend with the girlfriend, and they'll sit down and I'll agree the girlfriend's cards, and the guy, you'll watch her visibly change come over their faces as they're shocked that I'm reading this woman's life like a cheap novel. They're it's so funny because I'll have him the girlfriend will be oh, isn't that neat, and he'll be shh, I'm listening.
So you turn them over, but then there's probably someone all right, let's hear it, that are just really not they have their mind already made up.
Yeah, somebody was, it's funny. It's actually a cliche amongst psychics that you'll have somebody who you'll read for. You'll tell them a bunch of things. They'll tell you you're full of crap, and then they'll describe their situation. And you're how is that not what I just said? Can you explain to me how that was different than what I said? I know what I said was much vaguer because we're getting impressions and ideas and things like that, but that was still pretty much the story.
Yeah.
One of my favorites, this guy sat down in front of me, and I was I see that you lost somebody recently. And he's nope, that's bullshit. Yeah, I said, he told me, he basically called me a liar to my face. I'm okay. And then he starts talking about going on and on about something. He's well, can you talk to my friend? He only died 3 months ago. I'm that's not recent to you? Because that would be recent to me.
Yeah.
That would be very recent to me. 3 months after your best friend died. That seems like you may have lost somebody recently.
Yeah. Yeah. Does this guy have no feeling or what?
No, he just wanted to argue.
Oh yeah, you just wanted. Okay, all right, I understand. Wow.
Now everybody wants to play test the psychic. I'm okay, fine.
All right, we'll play the game. I've done this before.
As long as I'm getting paid, I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, right. Why would you, if you were a skeptic, why would you pay money to argue with somebody? I don't
got
understand.
a better question for you than that. I don't know why, but this will happen. There's a reason I want to get paid in advance is because I'll get people who do believe in what I do who will stiff me. I'm like, okay, either you believe this is a divine gift or I'm a crazy witch. Either way, you probably shouldn't screw me over, man.
Right. Oh my God. Because you didn't tell them what they wanted to hear, or
no, they just some of them just didn't pay me. Like I did the reading before I got the cash.
So rude. All right. Yes, I am going to wrap up. Yes. Guys, Dottie the psychic. Dottie, let me give you the last word. Always a pleasure. You're such a great guest and animated. Tell people how to get a hold of you and anything you want us to think about until we hear from you again.
All right. Well, I finally figured out who my target audience is. I'm here for any witches and bitches trying to live their best life. You can find me at Dottie the Psychic, DOTTIE the psychic.com.
She's awesome. Dottie the Psychic, everybody. We'll be right back. Great job, Dottie.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.